Hello and welcome to Live Full, Retire Early, the podcast where we build calm wealth, intentional freedom and lives that don't need escaping from. We have real conversations with real people, just like you. So if this sounds like your thing, keep on listening. I'm Emma Woodhouse, your host. Most people think earning more means working more hours, more stress, more burnout. But that's not how sustainable income actually grows. And today, I'm going to talk to you about the income ladder, which is a very simple way to earn more over time without destroying your energy, your health, or your life. In the last episode, we talked about killing the leaks, those pesky hidden expenses that are quietly keeping you stuck. But the uncomfortable truth is that you can only cut so far. At some point, the real lever isn't about spending less. It's about earning more on purpose. But not in the hustle harder way, in the smart, calmer and compoundable way. If you think about your income like a ladder, most people try and jump straight to the top. They burn out, they quit, and they end up back to where they started. But the smarter move is to climb it one rung at a time. Let's start at the bottom of the ladder, because this is where everything either works or it falls apart. And the first rung isn't very exciting, but it's everything. It's stabilising your base income. Think of your income like building a house. If you build on sand, the foundations are weak. Yeah, it might look fine, better than fine, at first, but sooner or later the cracks start to show and eventually something gives way. But build the same house on solid ground with solid foundations and it will stand there for generations. And your income works the same way. If your base is unstable, if your income is unpredictable, if your position is fragile, if you're constantly worried about the next month, then every extra thing you try and build will just add stress. Side hustles feel risky. Opportunities feel like pressure. Growth feels exhausting instead of exciting. And this rung is about making your base boring and reliable. I know that won't appeal to a lot of people, but it's something you've got to go through to become financially strong. It's about doing your job well, becoming harder to replace, reducing risk in your life, increasing predictability in your income. Not because it's glamorous, but because it gives you something solid to build on. But let me be clear, this rung doesn't make you rich. It's not supposed to. But what it does give you is breathing room. And breathing room is what makes every next move calmer and smarter. I saw something online recently which perfectly describes what I'm talking about. Your 9 to 5 funds your survival. Your side hustle, also known as your 5 to 9, funds your freedom. And your freedom isn't built in one massive leap. It's built in strategic layers. So once your foundation is solid, you can move on to the next rung, which is increasing your hourly value. Notice I say value and not rate. So this is increasing your hourly value. So the next question isn't, how do I work more? It's, how do I make my time worth more? This is where most people stop thinking in hours and start thinking in impact. Most advice about earning more sounds like this. Work more, do more, hustle harder. Woohoo! You'll hear all that nonsense online. But there's a hard limit to that. You only get so many hours in a day, and burning yourself out is a terrible long-term strategy. So instead of asking, how do I work more? The better question is, how do I make my time worth more? And this rung is about my favourite thing of all time, leverage. It's about moving closer to problems that actually matter, taking on responsibility that creates results, not just activity, building skills that are harder to replace, and positioning yourself where outcomes matter more than effort. So the goal isn't to be busy, the goal is to be useful in higher value ways. And when you do this, something really interesting happens. You can earn more without adding more hours. You can grow without turning your life into utter chaos. And your work starts to compound instead of just repeat. Same time, more leverage, less burnout. There's a quote out of the book, The 50th Law, which I'll link in the show notes, where 50 Cent says, "If ever there is a choice, more money or more responsibility, you must always opt for the latter." And when I first heard this, I was like, I'll take the money, thank you. But the more I sat with it, the more I realised there's a deeper meaning behind it. The book goes on to say, what you really value in life is ownership, not money. A lower paying position that offers more room to make decisions is definitely preferable to something that pays well but constricts your movements. So this isn't about working harder, it's about leverage. Because the real equation looks like responsibility equals control. Control to ownership, ownership, long-term power and wealth. And responsibility gives you things money alone can't. Skills, decision-making ability, visibility, control. And ironically, that's what leads to more money anyway. And it's what I like to call the anti-employee mindset. And I love that phrase. Don't optimize for pay today, optimize for control tomorrow. So in practical terms, take the role where you make decisions even if it pays less at the start. Avoid roles where you're well paid but boxed in. Prioritize positions that expand your agency and your leverage. Because ultimately, this is about moving up the food chain, away from dependence and towards control. And this is exactly why I'm in the role that I'm in right now. My job covers my survival, but my business is what builds my freedom. And the way my shifts are structured, that's what gives me the time and space to actually make that happen. Rung 3, adding optional income streams. This is the rung everyone wants to jump to first, and it's usually the reason why everyone ends up burnt out and overwhelmed. You're not alone. Can I say I haven't made the same mistake? No. Side income sounds exciting because it feels like progress, which feels like freedom. But if your base isn't stable and your time isn't valuable yet, it just becomes another source of stress. This rung isn't about working every evening, running 3 side hustles as well as your full-time job, or turning your life into a second full-time job. It's about adding something optional. And optional means it fits around your life instead of taking over it. If work gets busy, it doesn't break you. And if you miss a week, nothing collapses. And this is where you can start experimenting. Oh, I love running experiments. I love being surprised by what comes up during the process. Because most of us, including myself, think we know how a certain situation will pan out. Before it's even happened, we suddenly become Mystic Meg and we know what's going to happen in the future. Only people who live in the UK from the 90s will know who Mystic Meg is. But by running the experiment, you're opening yourself up to all the possibilities. You can test ideas, you can build small, and you can keep it contained. Not because you're playing small, but because you're playing smart. Yeah, you might fail at first, and honestly, that's a good sign. It means you stopped just thinking about it and actually started. So fail, learn, adjust, then go again. The 4th rung is more like building a well instead of carrying buckets. It's building scalable income. Because when you're trading time for money, every day looks the same. You carry the buckets, you get paid. You stop carrying them, the money stops. But scalable income is different. You put in the work up front to dig the well. At first, it's slow, it's messy, and it feels like you're doing a lot for very little return. But once it's there, everything changes. The water keeps flowing even when you're not standing there with a bucket. Your effort starts working for you instead of the other way round. And this is why 50 Cent talks so much about ownership. What you really value in life is ownership, not money. A lower paying position that offers more room to make decisions is infinitely preferable to something that pays well but constricts your movements. Because if your income depends on you showing up every single day, you don't have a well. You've just got a heavier bucket. Buckets pay you once, wells pay you repeatedly. And this is what systems, assets, content, and investments really are. They're wells that you build once and then maintain so you don't have to keep starting from zero. So your job isn't to do everything. It's to identify the next rung and give it your full attention, because that's how this builds, one level at a time. A quick burnout warning before we finish. If you try and climb all 4 rungs at once, you don't become ambitious. You become exhausted. This only works when you build it properly. Lock in where you are. Climb with intention. Stabilise before you move, because if you skip the foundations, you don't build freedom. You build pressure. This isn't about speed. It's about sustainability. Progress without chaos. Growth without burnout. If you want help figuring exactly where you are on this ladder and what your next move should be, I've put together a simple income ladder audit, and you can download it using the link in the show notes. And on Thursday, I'll be releasing a new article on Substack where I'll be sharing the bucket versus wells reset worksheet, which is a short, powerful exercise designed to help you move from carrying buckets to building wells. Because understanding the ladder is one thing, building the next rung is another. If you enjoyed this episode, it would really mean a lot if you took 30 seconds to follow the show and leave a quick review. It's what helps more people discover this and start building their own work optional life. You'll find everything else, including deeper dives and practical tools, over on my Substack, which is linked in the show notes. And as always, strategy beats stress, systems beat willpower, and your future is built on what you do consistently and not occasionally. Until next time.